with Sebastian, the arm drops straight down, whereas with Solomon, that arm sets up for the catch. So he keeps the upper arm in a fairly similar position while his hand and forearm drops down. Hey, Brenton here, welcome to Feedback Friday. In this episode, we've got a triathlete who's doing half Ironman and full distance Ironman events, and he said his current times are around 34 to 35 minutes for his half Ironman swims and a 1:12 to 1:13 for his full distance Ironman swims. Has competed at Kona in 2018 and 2019. He said he's just a little bit too far behind on his swim, so he's got to catch up on the bike and on the run. So he wanted to know what can he do to improve his stroke, to increase his speed here. So let's have a look at Sebastian's stroke and go from here. So from this front view, we can see that his alignment appears to be pretty good. His hands are entering about in line with his shoulders there, and good reach and extension forward. So I like this position here that he's getting into. So we've got the fingers below the wrist below the elbow. That's setting up pretty nicely. So look, no need to change that. I like where he's at. If we have a look at his left hand here, so it comes in, reaches forwards, and again, nice position here. So fingers below wrist below elbow. It's in line with his shoulder, setting up pretty well there. So that in itself, just keep with it. That's really good. If we have a look at his head position, seems pretty good. He's looking slightly forwards. As you know, you don't need to look straight down. It's okay to look slightly forwards, and this could be about the right range for him. Let's just have a look as he comes through. He may need to look slightly further down, but it won't need to be much at all. I mean, that's about in range. He could look slightly further down, but look, it's not going to change things too much. The main things that stand out to me that I would be looking to adjust is the left arm seems to drop down quite deep on his catch there. So he's probably missing out on a good chunk of water with his left arm. So if we have a look at this here, and he obviously breathes to the right-hand side and probably breathes every two. Nothing wrong with breathing every two. I think it suits a lot of people, especially racing, because you're going to get more air that way. And if you're breathing every three because you think you should, well, look, you're going to miss out on, you're going to probably run out of air if you do need to breathe a little bit more often. So as we look through here, so we know that setup's fine, that's good. Now on this left-hand side, you'll notice as he's getting that breath, that arm drops down. It's very, very straight as that happens. So it goes down really deep there, and he kind of misses the catch. Like he's still obviously propelling himself forwards, but because that arm kind of just drops straight down without getting much of a setup phase in that catch, then we can certainly improve that. So as we go through here, and this is where we want to have a look at that angle of the arm, is as you're about to pass under the shoulder, what's your angle? We can see here with him, it's around 130. We want it to be 100 to 120. So how that may look for him is somewhere around here. So he's not quite as deep with the arm, and that hand's on the inside a little bit more. I'm going to pull up a video just to show you. So if we have a look at this swimmer here on the right-hand side, so this is a swimmer, Solomon, right? Now if we just cut to an angle that we can see his catch a little bit better, this is it. So this is good. You can see this is quite a good comparison. You'll notice with Solomon here, so two things happen. What we're getting is, all right, so this is quite a similar position that we're beginning in. All right, so not too different. I'm just going to sync these up. Now, if you see what happens next is you'll notice that he's kind of still reaching forwards, Solomon is, or the arm's recovered a little bit more, and you'll notice he's got a bit more of a catch-up stroke, and Sebastian doesn't need to do as much of a catch-up, but you'll see that with Sebastian, the arm drops straight down, whereas with Solomon, that arm sets up for the catch. So he keeps the upper arm in a fairly similar position while his hand and forearm drops down. And as you know, if you've seen our videos, it doesn't need to be a super high elbow catch. You don't need to overdo it, but we don't want it to drop down quite so deep. So you can really see that difference there in position. And if we look at Solomon's angle here with his catch, 117 degrees compared to this one, which was around that 130-ish. Right, yeah, 138 as it says. So that's a fair difference. And obviously you can see the depth there, that difference in the depth. So Solomon's around here, and he's obviously just a little bit deeper. So then as we go through it, you'll see on this next part, what happens on the next part here is, so we set up the catch. Solomon's hand and forearm just drops down a little bit while the upper arm doesn't move too much. So he's getting a good catch. Now with Sebastian here, look, it's not too bad. It's maybe a little deep, and let's just check out the angle here. But otherwise it's pretty good through here, 121. Now it's the next part that I'd be looking to adjust. So see how once Sebastian gets to this position here, what we want to happen, the hand needs to start coming back to the hip and start to get shallower through the back. You'll see it here with Solomon, that all right, he's there, and now the hand comes sort of upwards and shallower towards the hip. So it's coming up in that direction. Now what happens here with Sebastian is right there. See what happens next. Notice the direction it goes. It goes deeper than what it was before. So it presses down, and that means when he finishes extending, so he's kind of finished extending his arm there, it finishes super deep. And so from here, he's not going to get much out of that back part of the stroke. So we know that the catch, the setup phase looks pretty good. And then he just ends up going a little bit deep. So it sort of makes it a good path here and then goes down. And then he's kind of got nowhere to go. So he's going to miss out on a fair bit of that propulsion out the back there. And that might be causing that arm to just sort of drop down there as well, because there's not a lot of propulsion happening out the back. And so we need that propulsion out the back to help with our length out the front. So it could be contributing to that. So it's like a chicken or the egg situation. What comes first? Well, look, we're not too sure, but they certainly work together. So if we have a look at that difference, so Solomon here, and I'll zoom in for you. So you can see his upper arm's almost out of the water already, while this hand and forearm presses back. Whereas at the moment with Sebastian, you'll see how deep that is. And so it gets a little bit stuck and we lose that propulsion. So that's great to spot it, but then we want to ask, how do you make that change? So one of the things that I'd have him do is, first of all, I'd say, all right, once you sort of get to under the shoulder, feel like you're coming up really shallow, feel like you're coming up towards the hip, and just try and change it in general. The other thing that I'd then have him do, if that doesn't make the change that we want, is that I have him do some drills. And there's two drills that I quite like for changing this. There's tricep extension drill. So this is where you kick on the side, preferably with a snorkel. You've got your upper arm and elbow into your side, and you're just practicing that exit phase. So you're just hand pressing back past the hip, and you just repeat it. That way he gets a feel for where it's like to be shallower there, and he feels that propulsion through that last part of the stroke. So that can be the first drill. The second one that I'll sometimes have swimmers do is what we call shallow exit drill. Fairly similar, but you'll be kicking on the side, really get this elbow out of the water, which you can see here, and then you press back, swap sides, and start again. It's almost like 6-1-6 drill, except you're just kind of kicking with your arm in a different position there, and practice like you're exaggerating the shallowness of where the arm is, again, just to try and make that change. So they could be two drills that may help him, and everyone's different. So it's not to say that they're going to be things that will certainly make the change. We just have to sort of work with him on it. So that would be the right arm. Now in terms of the left arm catch, we know it goes a little bit deep. Hopefully that would improve when he changes that back end of the stroke, and he can really keep that propulsion going out the back, because you can see there, like the palm's turned into the body. So it just means that he's not, it's kind of lost it out the back there. So hopefully that would help with that reach phase. But if that doesn't fix it, what has worked for a lot of the swimmers that I've coached in our stroke analysis membership is, as they're reaching forwards here, sometimes they'll have to feel like they're reaching forwards for an extra 1 or 2 seconds. So like they're reaching forwards for that wall, up at shoulder height, before they start the catch there. And sometimes I want them to go to more of like a catch-up stroke in the beginning, like exaggerate it. Maybe it turns into too much of a catch-up stroke, but that's fine, because we can always come back from that, and and we can adjust it from there. But if we're looking to make changes to the stroke, it can be really good to overdo it, and we can dial it back a little bit if we need to. So if you know that when you go to breathe, this arm just drops down, 2 things you might check for. One is, how's your exit? Are you keeping the palm facing backwards the whole time, and are you moving at the right depth? The other thing is, maybe you need to hold that reach and extension for another, what feels like 1 or 2 seconds, in order to make those changes there. So there's sort of 2 things that can be helpful for it. Because I'm sure that fitness is not an issue whatsoever if he's racing Kona, high level age group Ironman. So technique is really a big factor of it. And from what I can see here, these would be the things that I'd be looking to work on. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and you enjoyed this video, then please hit the subscribe button. We're well on our way to 200,000 subscribers at the time of recording this video. So I'd love to get to there before the end of the year. And thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the analysis and if there's anything that you would have focused on if you were coaching this swimmer. And I will see you next week.